I thank Oluwakemi for an assessment of President Tinubu's tenure at the Ecowas. I'm now joined by policy strategist and governance expert, Dr. Sam Amadi. It's a pleasure to have you on the news tonight. The president has done his time. Analysts say his tenure, however, was marked by turbulence, discontent, and particularly mentioned the exit of 3 member states. But in his speech, his farewell speech, he said he leaves with a sense of fulfillment and optimism for the future of West Africa. Give us your quick assessment of his time as Ecowas chairman. Is it a big shoe for Bio now?
Well, thank you for having me. I think we just have to be fair to Mr. President. I mean, unfortunately for him, he took over at the time there was a serious military coup in the 3 countries that are important members of the Ecowas Confederacy. We can't attribute that to him, but we can now assess how he managed that outcome. So clearly, before he took over, Ecowas, in my view, it was in a decline of a sort, apart from the peacekeeping era, and there were a few conflicts that required peacekeeping. ECOWAS has not been notable for any major, intervention, whether at the level of democracy, economic development, integration, and so on. The eco currency, common currency, didn't fly. Some of the conventions on democracy and elections and rule of law have not been, implemented. So it was essentially an ECOWAS that is not that significant in terms of what it has done to the continent. But analysts were of the view that perhaps he aggravated the exit of those 3 countries. The pugnacious approach in laying down, kind of a fiat, conditions and threatening, and even at some point mobilizing for attack, military attack, or threatening to mobilize military attack against those administration or regimes, kind of pushed them, arguably, to an extreme position of calling a bluff and exiting. So some analysts think that if he was a lot more diplomatic, strategic, perhaps, recognizing the weakness of the institution he's leading, the limit of power, but I think he was a bit gung-ho, Tinubu is somebody who is perhaps overconfident because of his own personal achievements. And so he took it to the policy, diplomatic field, and one could argue that it was disastrous because they never got to reconcile. The bellicosity between these countries and the rest of Nigeria is very high.
Okay, what you're saying seems to echo a lot of the assessment I've seen online. It's not really about the institution per se, but the leadership that he brought to the table. Do you also subscribe to the school of thought that perhaps if he had provided a different, more green kind of flag relation leadership, these states, these countries might have found a way to make the situation more bearable than having them leave the ECOWAS completely? And that, however you look at it, it is a blemish on his record that in his time, no matter how porous the organization is, 3 bodies, 3 entities left.
I think so. I mean, since formation, nobody has exited ECOWAS, even those who are not happy with outcomes. So if record is record, if under your watch, 3 countries exited with vehemence and with some kind of hostility, then that's a demerit. That's a checklist for failure. I mean, yes, he can say things have changed. We're now witnessing Russia, a different geopolitics, in the West African region. We've seen anger at maybe France, and maybe someone can argue counterfactually that even if Tinubu was not there, even if it didn't react the way he reacted, maybe these guys would have gone. But I take the view that the approach, saber rattling, the idea of we're going to invade, mobilize to fight you guys if the military doesn't hand over, was naive, was too arrogant, didn't quite proceed from a real strategic understanding about foreign policy, and considering that these countries also are not very choppy with Nigeria. There's been the Francophone and Nigeria have, even in, I used to work in foreign affairs advisor, they always go against us, to vote against us. So he didn't quite, maybe his advisors, I mean, new in government with this idea of, Tinubu's mystique. So he miscarried the mission. He misassessed the risks and maybe naively dismissed this as junta, young boys who just took over power, were Democrats. But look, these are successful coups. These are leaders who tap into disenchantment with their citizens and have high level of popularity. So I think it was not well managed, and that would be a problem for him. Yes, he talked about efforts to build the West African maybe force, standby force, or activate them, and a couple of things he has done, at least keep the rest together, continue to push Nigeria's support and the leadership in West Africa. Yes, he can count some of those. And of course, even this week that is handing over, we see a lot of economic activity going on, the West African Economic Summit. So it's not all bad, but the major thing, the major failure, which will override concern about his success, is that under his watch, three countries that have even significance to Nigeria in the strategic sense left and formed, not just left, formed their own confederacy and in a very bitter relationship with the rest of the West African, countries. That, for me, is a major failure, arising from hubris and miscalculation, and perhaps not having around himself a better strategic team that understands the lay of the land and intricacies of diplomacy in the region.
All right. Tinubu did talk about what you were referring to was the Ecowas standby force, and that was one of the things he was urging the Ecowas to do better, because no nation can fight terrorism alone. That is to his credit. Thank you very much, Amadi, for speaking with us. We do appreciate your time and the insights you've provided, even though the time is short. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.